Hi folks, it's Andy. Welcome to this week's Kendo Rant. Okay, so here we are for another fantastic week of questions. We've got pictures as well today. Okay, there's not so many today, so we should fire through these reasonably quickly. Thank you everybody for sending your questions in. If you don't know where to post questions for Kendo Rant, by the way, the best place to do it is in the Kendo Show Early Access Facebook group. It's a free group to join. There's a link in the description down below. If you're in that group, I put up a weekly post asking for questions, or you can comment on the YouTube video down below as well. But it's great to join that group. It's a great community. There's thousands of people in there, ranging in all different levels and abilities. So you know, it's a great little community that's going on there. A good discussion always happens. And when I release new instructional content, it goes in there first before it comes live on YouTube. So you get early access to it. That's why it's called the Early Access Group. So we're going to jump to these questions in just a moment. But before we do, let's help grow the Kendo community. You can do your part. How many did we start last week? Was it like 312 or something or more? Well, look, I think we can probably get another 576 people to start Kendo just by sharing and subscribing to this channel. But most importantly, if you go down into the comments, type what a fantastic, amazing Kendo video this is, use the word Kendo, then it will spread. And people who don't know about Kendo, but are the likely sort of people that are about to start Kendo, YouTube's little robots behind the scene know who they are. And it'll show it to them, and they might just start doing Kendo. And then we'll probably get like 576 new people into Kendo internationally. What a great community service that'll be. So do it. Now, we're going to get to these questions. There's one more thing we need to talk about, you and me. It's the best Kendo equipment website in the history of the human race, in the history of the galaxy, the solar system, the Milky Way, the universe, the multiverse, and everything else. It's KendoStar.com. Now, of course, I'm going to say all that because I own KendoStar.com. I'm behind it all. I'm like the Wizard of Oz behind the curtain, but not so much behind the curtain. Pulling all the levers. And it's not just me. There's a whole team of us doing it. Providing the best Kendo equipment website in the world with the best service to go along with it. And don't take my word for it. Just look how well we are reviewed and rated. We are one of the best rated e-commerce websites, not just for Kendo, but actual e-commerce websites for our service online. All right. That's feedback I've got direct from Trustpilot. When they come to me, they say, you know, you have got one of the best ratings of all of the stores that we work with. And that's of like all the online stores that have got Trustpilot, which is like thousands and thousands, tens of thousands across the globe. We're in the top percentile. All right. So you know you're getting a good service and you know that you're getting decent quality stuff. Of course you are. Just look at what everyone else in your dojo is using. If they're using KendoStar, they know what they're doing. All right. Get to KendoStar.com. All right. Let's get to these questions. Hey, Andy Sensei, can you talk a bit about effective strategies for taking the center? Also, having just recently seen a feedback video where they had a Jordan stance versus a Nitoryu, is it allowed to switch stances from Chudan to Jordan mid-match if you felt your Kamae was being dominated by Nito? Okay, so effective strategies for taking the center. That's why I've got the pens here. I need to get those little Shinai like Jose from Kendo Tips has got. It's clever of him to do that. Actually, I need to do that. I'll try and get some. But for now, we've got pens. All right, look. taking the center, you know, it's one of those things that probably in the beginning we emphasize an awful lot, and it is super important. That's why. But you have to get to a point where, you know, you've practiced so much that sort of taking the center or applying pressure to the center becomes a kind of subconscious act. And that takes years of practice. That's the best strategy for doing it. Whereas if you kind of overemphasize it and kind of go like this, try and do it, then you put yourself at risk, really, of telegraphing your intentions and open yourself up for strikes. So what you have to do is, I think you just have to experiment with what works the best. But I think the most important thing is to keep your wrists nice and relaxed, nice and flexible, so that you're not kind of going kind of and trying to bully your way into the center, but instead using shinai sabaki. We've probably heard the word ash sabaki being the footwork movement, whereas shinai sabaki is movement of the shinai. All right. So, you know, using the shinai sabaki in lots of different ways to sort of attack the center line. Okay. But without being, you know, over the top with it or overextending yourself at the same time. It's just going to be a case of practice and experimentation, frankly. In terms of switching stances mid-match, so switching from Chudan to Jordan, yeah, is it allowed? Yes, it's of course it's allowed, and I've seen people do it. I've not really seen people do it very much effect, to be honest. So, you know, you can, yeah, it's allowed. Do I recommend it? For the most part, as a general rule, probably not. You know, if you're practicing Chudan like for 100% of your Kendo practice, and then you go into a match and suddenly somebody's doing Nito and you go, okay, well, I'll have a crack at Jordan. It's probably not going to turn out as well as you might hope, if that makes sense. All right. So yeah, that's where I sit on that one. Next one. Hi, Sensei. I had the pleasure of doing a quick Jigeko with you 10 years ago. Oh, really? Okay, cool. Do you have advice for the attitude in returning to Kendo and what to focus on? I stopped practicing 5 years ago, previously trained for 6 years. All right, so look, if you train for 6 years, you've obviously got sort of a basic or cursory understanding at least of Kendo. It's not like it just sort of evaporates. You're going to be super rusty, and there's going to be some things you need to kind of remind yourself of. But I think if you go back to the dojo with an open mind, first of all, and you know, start at the beginning, and you'll probably pick up not where you left off, but you're not going to have to, you know, with any luck, you're not going to have to start literally from scratch. But just be prepared for, you know, there's going to be a bit of a learning curve whilst you get over the sort of gap that you've had. Now, the other thing to remember is when you take a big break like that, you can't just throw yourself back in physically, all right? You're going to do yourself an injury, okay? So take it slowly, take it carefully, listen to your body. If something starts to ache, then, you know, make sure you stretch it out properly and take breaks where you need to, all right? But talk to your teacher as well, and I'm sure they'll be happy to welcome you back and they'll help you get back into it, all right? But I wouldn't worry about it too much. I'm sure you'll be able to get back in the literal swing of things before, you know, without too much trouble. Okay. Next one. When could they get to this point? Is it more cost efficient to repair or just buy new? Ooh, okay, right, okay, yeah. This is really dependent. It's really dependent. To repair these kote, you're going to need to replace the palms, right? It's going to depend on a few things. One is where you live, because there's shipping costs involved. And two is obviously the kind of value of the kote we're talking about. It might be cheaper all around to replace them. Maybe not. I don't know. But it can be, you know, replacing the kote palms, because the price of like kote, especially like entry level or practice level kote is kind of dropped off a cliff in the last few years. you know, repairing them often doesn't seem sort of economically viable. However, at the same time, you know, it's kind of wasteful in it to just bung them in the bin. So I get that too. So it's going to come down to sort of personal choice. I think what you need to do is get in touch with us. We can help you with it. Send us this picture and let us see what the other one looks like too. And we can give you a price on what it's going to cost, but it might come out to a similar sort of price as a new set of Kendo, or not far behind. If you know what I mean, once you think about shipping and all that, again, depending on where you're based. So yeah, I just bear that in mind. But we'd be happy to help you with it, of course. But yeah, they do need looking at, don't they? Next one. We've only got a few to go through today. Nice short video today. It's a long one though. If you sensei, I hope this finds you well. Yes, it does. Do you have any suggestions regarding the transportation of takedo when traveling by air? Feels like a bit of a risk, and I'm not sure it's worth it. On the one hand, I have one I'd love to potentially bring with me to a seminar this summer, but others down others down the road. But on the other hand, I'd also definitely prefer not to have it damaged or destroyed in transit. Quite a long trip for me, and I'm expecting a couple of luggage changeovers along the way. Normally I'd keep my Kendo together and check luggage, but I'm wondering if perhaps it might be best to try and bring this as a personal item instead. Thank you very much in advance. I really appreciate all you do. And for those watching who are on the fence and need a review, KendoStar makes excellent gear. Thank you very much. So I've travelled with takedo being bamboo do. I've travelled with them a couple of times actually, and they're okay. To be honest, the way I travel with my Bogu is I have a sort of a reasonably large like hard shell type suitcase. Okay, and in that my Bogu fits in there, so do all the clothes that I need for my trip. All right, so I pack the Bogu in. I usually don't pack it. I take a Bogu bag separately with me, but I pack that in. I compress that down flat, so I put that in. I put the Bogu in with it, and then I pack all my clothes in my doggy and hack my pack around my Bogu as well to try and cushion it out as much as I can. So essentially, there's not a lot of movement with it. But if it's a hard shell case, then it's usually not too much of a problem. So I've travelled a lot with bamboo do. I've travelled sort of halfway around the world with one on more than one occasion, and I've had no trouble at all, to be honest. Now that's not to say you won't. Can't say that for sure, but in my experience so far, it's been fine. I've never taken it as sort of a personal item. I just put it in my checked luggage. But if you're asking me what's the more practical thing to do, it's to travel with a synthetic door because it's lighter and definitely much less risk of getting damaged. But if you really want to use the bamboo door, then just make sure it's packed nicely, and it's try and pack like the inside of the door. I put obviously my tare and then my men inside the door. And then I'll try and pack the space on the inside and then pack the space on the outside. So as much as possible, you see the door is shaped like that. It can't sort of do this too much. Okay, if there's too much space there, it might. That's what's going to damage it, if anything. And especially if it's a lacquered one. If it's a lacquered one, then too much of this isn't very, very good for it. Okay. When I say a lacquered one, I mean, if it's like a kiji door or something like that, it won't affect it as much. But it's still not great. Okay, so that's my sort of thoughts on that. All right, we're nearly there already. Wow, it's a quick fire round today. Hi Fish Sensei, I'm curious, what marks the difference between a strike in proper posture versus one that's leaning? Several high-level kendoka, and actually where I noticed it in your Zanshin video during your full speed demonstration for the regular men's strike, it looks like there's a lean in these kendokas strike. I'm probably misinterpreting what I'm seeing. And as I'm working up to Nidan, it's something I'm working on my own Kendo right now. So I'm just trying to get clarification on what I think I understand, what's actually going on. Thank you always for your time and expertise. Okay. So, yeah. There's a couple of things I think I want to say on it. All right. I think at your stage where you're at, like Shodan going into Nidan, it's a common point of like confusion, or a point where you know there's a sort of uncertainty around how we're supposed to interpret this section of the rules. Whoops, bashed my microphone there. This section of the rules that's in the very beginning. This says, Yuko Datotsu is defined as an accurate strike or thrust made into a Datotsu bui. That's the place, striking zone, on the opponent's Kendogu. With the Shinai's Datotsu bu, that's a place on the Shinai that you're allowed to hit with. In high spirits with correct posture being followed by Zanshin. So this sort of idea of, correct posture. There's nothing particularly sort of concrete about that, is there? Correct posture. What is correct posture? It says correct posture for a start. It doesn't say perfect posture. All right. So the thing is, correct posture means posture that is in the sort of correct form in order to make a valid strike that meets the other criteria of Yuko Datotsu. Now, at an advanced level, and I'm not going to go into this too much because I don't want to send you off on a different tangent, that doesn't necessarily always mean a straight up upright posture. There's times when turning your posture, or even, should we even say leaning, is necessary in order to make a correct strike. They're reasonably rare, but it's not like zero, if that makes sense. So I think the thing is, I think when people get to the stage you're at, I think it is a big step in, sort of a stumbling block in a way, or a big sort of point of contention, because I think we tend to overly kind of get stuck on this point of correct posture, and we kind of infer that to mean the posture has to be perfectly straight, otherwise it's not a valid strike. And that's just demonstrably not true, as we can see borne out in the evidence, okay, of the thousands of videos that we've got online of the best kendoka in the world being judged by the best referees in the world, where their posture might not be perfectly straight at the point of strike, all right? But because I think what you're talking about, like leaning, is that there's an element of when you stretch your arms out, that the kind of, that you kind of, particularly a head, I guess, or neck can come back a little bit. It's a bit of a habit of mine, certainly, and lots of people as well. Now, another thing I would say is, you've mentioned in the video of mine from the Zanshin, I'm not a perfect example, all right? I'm not a perfect example either. And probably I lean my head back a little bit more than I'd like to when I strike men. It's sort of something that I've sort of noticed personally. That video is quite old. I guess it's 4 or 5 years old, something like that. I think in more recent videos of myself, I've seen I have made some improvements on it, but it's not. It's probably still what some people might say is leaning back a bit too far. Is it so bad that it's going to deny the criteria of Yuko Datotsu? No, it's not. And it's no sort of worse or different to what the other things we see out there are as well. So look, I think what I want to say is, if you see the best kendoka in Japan, right, doing a strike in a particular way, and that doesn't necessarily fit with how your understanding of what something you understand is, then the best way is to challenge the way you're challenge your own understanding, which is exactly what you're doing. Don't get me wrong. Challenge your understanding on it rather than challenge what those are doing, especially when there's a sort of what can I say, like a massive number of examples of it being that way. All right, if you watch the All Japan Championships, right, right, these kendoka that are in the All Japan Championships, they are at the top of their game. They are in their prime. Is their kendo perfect? No, all of their kendo is not perfect. Are the points scored in that, though, like brilliant Yuko Datotsu? For the most part, yes, they are. For the most part, yes, they are. Yeah? Because those kendoka are exceptionally talented and skilled kendoka, and those shimpan are exceptionally good shimpan. So, you know, that you can use that as a benchmark. Okay, I understand. I was of the impression that the correct posture meant that you had to have the perfectly straight back or a neck, for example. But when I watched that, it's probably not quite that strict. It has to be something along those lines. Okay, right, cool. Now you know. Yeah. Similarly, I don't know, like these sort of things, yeah, these sort of things, and it's the way you should be watching Shiai or anything as well, you know, gradings or whatever, and you know, if you get this sort of thing, say, oh well, that's different to what I understood, yeah. If you see a match, for example, a very high level match, especially something like an All Japan level match. It doesn't have to be All Japan Championships, like any All Japan level, like All Japan Championships, All Japan Hachidan tournament, or even like the All Japan High School tournament. I know there's some comments about high school kendo, but like I think high school kendo gets ripped on much more than it should. The good high school kids have got fantastic kendo, fantastic kendo that's correct. The good ones have. Right, but the thing is about high school kendo is there's a massive variance in ability. Anyway, you know, if you're watching something like that and you see something, oh that doesn't, oh well, why? Hang on, that was given as ippon, but I understand ippon or yuko datotsu to be X, and what they awarded doesn't meet that. It's worth asking yourself, and I've said this many times before, but really examining, okay, the first place to point, you know, to examine that is, okay, so where am I wrong about my understanding of Yuko Datotsu, rather than those Shimpan got it wrong about that decision on Yuko Datotsu. Now, that's not to say that Shimpan never get it wrong, right? Because of course you do. Shimpan are human. But, especially when you see some sort of consistency among several matches, as we would with, you know, what you're talking about with the posture issue, then you can start to realize, okay, well, that's the way it's supposed to be. Okay, so that maybe the way I'm understanding it or the way I've understood stuff up to now is perhaps a little bit misaligned with that. So I need to just adjust the way I'm sort of interpreting things. All right, that's what I would say. Okay, I'm sure you'll do fine with your Nidan. All right, but you know, look, if you're going for Nidan, well, what people want to see, what the grading panel's wanting to see, is can you make strikes with Kikentai no Ichi, with you know, meeting the criteria of Yuko Datotsu to a decent standard, good opportunities, good tenuichi, good sae, good zanshin, proper zanshin, not running off to the distance with your back to your opponent like you know, like you would in the Kihon or Uchikomi, showing an understanding what zanshin is, and then also being able to demonstrate that you can do, or you know, there are more than just men strikes in kendo. All right, so maybe being able to demonstrate that you are aware of other techniques. Right, you shouldn't just be hitting men and that's it. All right, that's that. Okay. Last one. What do you struggle with? What do you still struggle with in your kendo, and how do you personally approach problem solving? I struggle with in my Kendo? I struggle with a lot. It's hard to quantify it into words. There's a lot that I struggle with. A lot. Struggle a lot with the mental game of Kendo. Do I want to go into that? Maybe, I don't know. I struggle. I've got like small habits that I'd rather get rid of, that I struggle to get rid of. I have a tendency to lift my toes as I do semi. I don't like that. It's hard because like I do it without thinking about it, so I don't know when I'm doing it. Struggle with kind of meeting my own standard. If that makes sense. It's particularly difficult for me. I find it difficult for me, I should say, having moved back to the UK from Japan, so I kind of find it difficult because I'm not able to practice on the same level that I was before. I think the biggest thing I struggle to do is get enough practice. That's really difficult for me. And to make the most out of every practice. It's hard to remain focused and not become lazy when, like, how can I put this? I don't want this to sound kind of, it's very easy for this to come off wrong and sound sort of arrogant or me kind of, I don't know, but it's not how I mean it in any way. But okay, so right now I have the 6th Dan. Okay. In the UK, that's considered a high grade, all right? So there's not many people with 6th Dan in this country, like a handful, literally. There's none in my dojo. I'm lucky I've got quite a high level dojo in some respects, in that my wife's 5th Dan, she's going to get 6th Dan easy, but she's 5th Dan, so I've at least got her. I have another 5th Dan in my dojo as well. So it's not too bad, but at the same time, the majority of people that I do Kendo with are junior to me. All right. Now, when I lived in Japan, or when I visit Japan, when I go back to Japan, last time I did Kendo in like a normal dojo, like a normal practice, just adult practice dojo, like me and my wife were like the lowest grades there. Everybody was 7th or 8th Dan. So like, and there was like, I don't know, 30 people there or something. Everyone was 7th or 8th Dan. And it's like, it's not a Dan thing. But everybody was high level. So it was whoever I practiced with, it was going to be a high level keiko. So it's difficult because without that, it's very easy to become lazy. All right. So say I'm practicing with somebody who's much junior to me, perhaps someone who's quite new into their Kendo journey. It's easy for me to kind of take the brakes off. Now, obviously, I'm not talking about in Jigeiko. I'm not going to just rain down on somebody who's a beginner. But I mean, even when I'm doing Kihon or Kirikaishi, if I'm really being strict enough on myself to be carrying on improving in the way that I want to. Now, on the flip side of that, I'm actually, I'm reasonably happy with the place that my Kendo's in for the most part. I think I've improved since coming back from Japan. I think my Kendo's going in the right direction still. But yeah, there's a lot of things that I'm not happy with that I want to improve. I have a lot of what can I say, internal struggle with how I'm supposed to approach Kendo, like the Keiko, the Tachiai, with other people of a similar level or higher. I struggle with that a lot. I'm not sure where I am or what I'm supposed to be doing sometimes. So, I had a big sort of, not crisis of that towards the end of last year, but going back to Japan really helped me out with that. So yeah, things like that, rather than like, the angle of my doichi or something like that is the sort of things that I struggle with. I often come back from Keiko thinking like, this turned into a therapy session. I often come back from Keiko thinking like, oh, that was such a rubbish Keiko. I just wasted my Keiko. I should have done better or tried hard or something like that. And in terms of what I personally do to approach the problem solving of that is I do my best to try and record my Keiko as much as I possibly can and review it. And then 9 times out of 10, it's even when I come back feeling sort of dejected, thinking that I'd done really bad or didn't apply myself properly. When I review the footage, it's not as bad as I remember it. And I'm perhaps being a little bit strict on myself than I need to be. But at the same time, I'm able to highlight points that I definitely do need to improve on. And, you know, areas where I'm able, you know, need to get better. And what it also lets me do is it lets me keep a log so I can sort of compare and make sure that I am consistently going in the right direction. I can say, okay, well, I've got a sort of, I can give myself feedback and say, right, okay, well, compared to last week or last time, you know, we recorded a session, this was better or that was worse. And that's what I have to do. And then the only other thing I can do is try to seek the quality Keiko with other Kendoka that can help me. As I say, I'm very lucky that like my wife is a very accomplished Kendoka, and she's been sort of one of the most important teachers for me throughout my Kendo journey. Like, so she helps me a lot. We don't often get a chance to Keiko together because we're both teachers in the dojo and we end up teaching different levels of the class. But when we do, it's very, very beneficial for me. And then, you know, I try to seek out other sort of Kendoka that I can do the Gokaku Geiko with. For example. And then like my hope is, of course, I haven't been able to do in the last few years, but since this year just started again, returned to Japan, of course, and practice with my senseis there. And that's it. So yeah, that's my little therapy session, I guess. Look, Kendo's about struggle, isn't it? Kendo's about struggle. That's what it's for. If you know, you have to be struggling with your Kendo. You have to be. If you're sort of like, yeah, my Kendo's awesome, I'm great, I don't have a problem with it at all, there's nothing wrong with it. Dry skin on my chin as well, that's another trouble I've got. That comes from wearing my men, obviously. Anyway, yeah, you have to have these struggles, okay? You have to have these struggles. It's part of what Kendo is, okay? Right, that's it. We're at the end. Have a fantastic weekend. I'm going to go and put some moisturizer on. Have a great weekend. Hope it's full of Kendo for you. Shop at KendoStar, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.